Hey, my name's Jun. Today I'm going to walk you through how I approach hair grooming in Houdini. This is not the only approach, but this is what I found to be the most convenient for me. I also like to add that hair grooming in Houdini I found to be less buggier than XGen in Maya. I know some bugs in XGen that I've encountered since Maya 2018 and they still haven't been fixed by now in Maya 2025. So yeah, this tutorial will be beginner friendly, so anyone with a prior Houdini experience can follow along. And if you're really new and you don't know about it, you can actually get Houdini Apprentice for free from SideFX's website. So please download Houdini Apprentice if you want to follow along. Alright, let's get started. In order to do hair grooming, we need three things: the mesh, the guides, and then the generated hair itself. So the first thing we do after we open Houdini is to import our mesh. So in order to do that, we're still in the object level. So we press tab and then we type in geometry. This is the geometry node. So let's rename this to something that makes sense. Maybe like this. And then we dive into this node and we add the file node. Okay, so let's bring in the file. Right, so why do I not see anything here? It is because one thing to note when importing a geometry to Houdini is the scale of your objects. So by default, Houdini uses meter. So for example, if modeled something in Maya, the size of it is 15 centimeters in height. So when you import the model into Houdini, it will become 15 meter in size. The scale will affect simulation and materials such as subsurface scattering. So we have to actually pay attention to that. So there are two ways we can change the scale. We can change the scale of our model in Houdini. First of all is by changing Houdini's default unit of measurement, but we're not going to do that now because we're going to bring in a node called transform, and this will have the ability to uniform scale your model. So let's do 0.01. This will divide the model by 100, and now we can see the model. So if you want to check the size of your model, you can actually look at it here, the size. So this was 36 meters in height, but then after transforming the model, now we can see that it's 0.3 meters, which means this is 36 centimeters. So that's what we want. So one thing to note, if you want to change the scale down to centimeters in the default setting, it's better to do it before you do anything else, because that will avoid any simulation miscalculation later on. Okay, so before we go on to making the guides, I would like to make a mask, and this mask will determine where the hair will grow. So in order to make a mask, we use a node called attribute paint. This one right here. So I'm just going to work on half of the model because we can mirror to the other side later on using a node. So let's do that. You press enter, the viewport, and this will allow you to paint the mask, right? So if you press Control, you are erasing the mask. So let's start painting. Let's say we're satisfied with it, right? We can always change it later, because good thing about Houdini is it's non-destructible. So what I'm going to do now is to mirror the mask to the other side. How do we do that? We add a node called attribute mirror. First of all, we need to change the name, and we'll call it density mask, right? So here, oh wait, it changes. Okay, wait, sorry about that. Okay, so this will be the density mask. If we go down here and we attribute to copy change to other attributes, and then we change the mirroring method to topology, because clearly we can see that my model is not symmetrical, but the topology is symmetrical. So we zoom in and we choose the middle point and we double click, yeah, something like this, and then we press enter. You're going to see all these identity of the middle point here. Now in the attribute name, wait, I think it should be points, right? Yeah, then we choose density mask. So if we turn on density mask here, if we show the density mask, we can see how the entire mask will look like. Okay, let's say this is good enough, right? Let's finish this up first. Let's call in the null node. So this node will be like the export or the output node. So let's call it out mask. So next thing is to set up our VDB. So Houdini uses VDB to calculate the collision of the hair against our model. So in order to do that, we need the model to be airtight, not like this. So first of all, we need to from here, let's call in the polyfill node. So this polyfill node will fill in the gap, so we can actually do however we want, you know, something like this maybe. Right, so that our model now is airtight or watertight, however you want to call it. We can add in the next node, which will make our model into VDB, and it's called VDB from polygon. So this is very low res collision point, right? So we can increase it, we can decrease it, but we want to decrease it because we want the model or the voxels to be dense enough. So something like 0.002, this is good. 0.001 is perfect. This is what we want. Okay, so now we can add in the null node, which will be the output, right? So let's call this out VDB, right? Something like that. Now that we are finished with everything, we can always go back here later on if we find any trouble. Let's go back to the object level right here. You click here, and then let's add a guide groom node. let's rename this to something that makes sense. The guides for the main hair. So in here we can check the parameters right here, right? So first of all, we want to define where the skin is. So we can let's do the mask right here, right? We can see that all these guides are spawned all over our model. We can increase the density right here, and if we want the guides to just spawn on the mask that we have painted, we change this to skin attribute, and we click we pick the density mask from the drop down menu, and then everything will be just like what we want. What I want is to draw each guide, so I don't want to just, I mean, you can do this if you want to, and you can pick any seed. You can play around with the seeds, scatter seeds, so that you can just get a good start, but that's not what we want. Let's put it to 0, because what I want is a full control, which you can do by drawing each guide. So let me show you how. So first we dive in right here, we add another guide groom node. This will connect everything automatically. Now here's where we do the majority of the guide work. So there are many tools you can use here on the drop down menu here, right here. Draw, plant, delete, but I won't explain every single one because you can play around with them yourself. What I'm going to do is to show you what I actually use. So we can use the plant and draw right here on the top to create each guide manually. There's no secret to instantly be good at hair grooming. It takes time and practice. So my advice is to just look at reference and try to replicate what you see. Maybe from here. Oh yes, you can actually do it from here, right? So this way we can see where we should plant or draw the guide. So let's do it right now. Let me show you. So if you want to select some guide, you don't want to affect the other guides, you can press S to select, and then you where is it? Which is select primitive, right? So you can select everything, not just some part of it. Then you press enter to get back to sculpting, and you can sculpt just one or whichever guide that you have selected, right? So this is a really good way to isolate some of these guides. So let's say you're happy with the guides, something like this, right? We don't have to make the guides too dense, because what I like to do next is to summon the node called hair generate. So let's plug in everything in the right place. And what this node does is actually it will generate hair and fill in the gaps between these guides, right? So we don't have to manually add more guides one by one. We just need to do the main shape of the hair, and then we generate the hair. But first, what we want to do is to apply the mask that we've created. Then now we can add more density. Let's uncheck this just to make sure. Something like this. This is pretty dense, okay? And then what I'd like to do next is to just play around with the influence radius. This looks nice. And then just increase the influence decay maybe. And then what I'd like to do next is to summon the node called what is it called? Clump. Hair clumping. Because we want this to clump together, right? First of all, we define where the clumping would go, and I have actually created a mask here called clump mask. And what this mask will do is to define where I want the clumping to go. So let's do that by decreasing the clump size. Something like this, probably. And then before we go and generate the hair, what I like to do is to go here to attributes and disable all output, because we're not going to use any of these attributes to generate the actual hair. If you turn these on, this clumping will affect the generated hair, which we don't want at the moment, because we'll do that separately. Okay, so now good practice to do before we generate the hair is to just summon the guide deform, and this will keep your hair. If you use animated skin, for example, the hair will stick to the animated skin. So it's just good practice to do that. And then we generate the actual hair. We plug in everything, not everything, well, the groom data here. And then let's actually turn this off. So let's start with the mask. So we apply the density mask like usual. We increase the density, uncheck grow unguided hair. And then what I like to do is to set up the thickness first. Maybe something like this. Yes, this looks nice. But to increase believability or realism, what I like to do is to add a point right here and just decrease this one. Just decrease the root, so that it gives you the illusion of the hair growing out of the skin. Just a tiny bit, not too much. Maybe a little bit more. Yes, something like that. This will make the hair to be more believable, and increase the density by much, like 500,000. Yes. We can always increase the hair density later. Maybe increase the thickness a little bit. 2 or 1.5, right in the middle. So now that we have everything ready, I want to talk about what makes a groom realistic. So in my experience, there are 3 main components. Number 1, clumping. Number 2, noise. And number 3, stray hair. So these 3 alone can transform an ugly groom into something that looks much better than this and much realistic. We can add more things on top, but that depends on the type of hair that we want to make. Alright, so now let's jump into the hair gen node right here. Before we summon the hair clump node, I would like to use the color node just so we can see what we're working with. So in order to do that, we summon the node called color. Let's plug it in here, and right now we can already see that we have everything colored as white. I don't want to make the color type constant. I want to make a ramp from attribute so that we can tweak the root and the tip of the hair. So the color of the roots and the color of the tips of the hair. But in order to do that, we need to summon another node called, resample. Let's plug it in here. In resample, we need to just, drag everything to 0 because we don't want this to affect the hair. We just want to check this curve view attribute. So with this attribute, we can drive the color. Let's see. So to check, there's a preset called black to orange, and then the attribute set to curve view, and now we can see what's going on, right? So let's maybe turn something like this. Okay, yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, now we can move on to the first thing. Number 1, clumping, remember? So let's summon the node called hair clump. So we need to plug in everything, this to the guides, and then the skin, the VDB, and let's just connect this to the output hair. Right, and what we want is to use the guide that we've made because we have made a pretty cool looking guide, right? We want to use this as the main drive for where the clumps should be. So let's connect this to custom clump curves. So when we click this, we can already see what's going on, right? So we will make the clumping in layers. So the first layer should be pretty big, and right now it's really small clumps. So wait, before that, I want the clumps to only affect the top of the hair, right? So in blend, let's apply the mask, the clump mask. So I have actually made a mask for where I want the clump to go. And now we can tweak the clump size in here. Oh wait, it's being driven by the guide, so yeah, it doesn't affect the size there. So what we want to do is to play around with this, linear blend, extrude. But what we want to do, what we can do, because we cannot really affect the clumping size. Oh, we can actually, but this doesn't look very good. What I want to do instead is to use the tightness over here, so we can just do a very low number because we want the clumps to be thick. Another thing we can do is to use this ramp. Don't worry if it doesn't look very good right now, because we're going to make it better later. So let's either duplicate this node, or we can just summon another node, right? And we want this to be affected by the guides that we've created as well. We want this to be affected only clump within existing clumps, so the clumps that we've created up here will affect. So basically we're making clumps within clumps, right? So just like before, we apply the density, well, not the density, clump mask, so that everything on top is affected but everything at the bottom is not affected. Let's just use this tightness to, you should just play around and see what works, what doesn't. What curling does is amplify, well, as the name suggests, curling applies, and which part of the hair is affected. You can tweak everything, like only affecting the tip, for example, without affecting the roots. The frequency is like the number of turbulence, right? So if you increase this, there will be more turbulence, but if you decrease this, there will be less turbulence. And this also affects which part of the hair, either the roots or the tips, will be affected by these numbers the most, but we're not going to do that now. Okay, let's just say it's a pretty good start. Now what we want to do is to do clumping for this section of the hair. So in order to do that, first we need to make a mask. So instead of making another mask, what I like to do is to use this mask and invert this procedurally, so that if we change this one, it will affect the inverted mask. So how do we do that? Let's summon the node called attribute wrangle node. Okay, so let's write something. add, and let's add the name of the new mask. For example, something like this, something that makes sense. Then spacebar equals, and let's define what this mask is made of, which is the clump mask -1, because -1 means inverted. So 1 spacebar minus spacebar f add, and then put in the name of this mask, clump mask, and put a semicolon, and that's it. So this will be the new mask. So to check if it has actually been created, we should let's put everything, put the clump size as at a very low number. Let's say 4, and then skin attribute, the new mask that we created. See, before, after, so it doesn't affect the top, it only affects the bottom part of the hair. So now we can tweak this. Okay, so this is the clumping. Number 2 is to do the noise. Summon the node called, just type in freeze, and we summon the node called guide process. Hook it up, and now we have the freeze. This will break up the CG looking hair, the super smooth hair in the rendering. So this part is very important. Okay, so now let's move on to the next one. But before we do that, let's make a mask, because we want this noise to only affect a certain amount of hair, you know. So the way we do that is we make a guide mask node, and then use we can use everything in here, but what I want to do is random mask, so we can see which hair will be affected is by whatever operation. We can change the name of the mask to random mask, something that makes sense, right? And then we can tweak the amount of hair that will be affected. Okay, what we're going to do with this mask is to add some flyaway or outlier hairs. It will only affect the hair that we've defined in the guide mask on top. So the black hair will not be affected, the white hair is the one affected. If we uncheck visualize mask, we can see how the hair will look like without having to see the mask. Okay, that looks pretty good. So what we want to do is to set the length of the flyaway, because the flyaway would probably not be long, right? It's shorter than the average hair. So first of all, I don't know, very small number, and then in the masking part, tab, guide attribute, and we apply the random mask. And now we can adjust the length. Okay, so we can see that the set length process is actually either adding length or decreasing the length of the strands. But when it adds the length of the strand, it doesn't really know where to go, right? Because it doesn't have a guide to direct where the strand should go. So when you encounter something like this, right, let's see, something like this, it really doesn't know where to go. So we need to change the mode from set to subtract so that it only decreases the length of the hair. So let's put in some numbers like 0.3. So this way you can see flyaway hair that ends right here. So this is the stray hair part. So there's number one, clumping. We have this clumping, and then we have the noise, which is the frizz. Let's call it noise, because it affects this one affects a lot of hair, right? And this will add that realism. Okay, with this curve mask applied, we can only affect the middle part of the hair, so it doesn't really mess with the tips of the clumps that we've made. And it doesn't affect the root. But if we want, we can increase a little bit. So with this noise, what we want to achieve is to just break up these, something that looks a little too CG, a little too smooth. So this way, almost all of the hair will be affected by the noise. Just to break up the CG look, by introducing some frizz, some randomness there, some noise. And then number 3 is we add the flyaway, something like this. Then we cut the length of the flyaways. And we can tweak some stuff. We can refine the hair again just to achieve the look that you want, or the look that the reference gives you. Okay, so remember how I said that we will have layers of clumps, right? Well, now we have the primary clumps, which are the biggest ones, and then we have the secondary clumps, which I took directly from the guides that we've created, plugged it in here, and we get the secondary clumps, right? Very controlled. And then we come to the tertiary clumps, and I just found that I could not get the clumps to be as small as I wanted them to be. No matter how I tweaked these numbers, I just could not get the clumps to be as small as I wanted them to be. So how do I resolve that? Well, first of all, I took the guides directly, and then I plugged it into hair generate node. So what this does is it will generate some hair strands which we can use as guides for where we want the clumps to be, right? So very controlled. We can tweak these numbers. I can actually show you right now. Like if we tweak these numbers to like 44,000, see, we get these clumps. So if we still don't like, we can tweak the scatter seed, right? So this is a very controlled way of how you can resolve a problem where you could not get these numbers to be as low as you want them to be. So now you can see the final result, right? And that's it.